Right, before I get into this video, I want to say that I really wanted to cover this because, you know, it's two Brits in a world title fight fighting this weekend. I'm going to be open and honest and say that neither Liam Smith or Terry Flanagan are guys that I'm massive fans of. They're not guys whose careers I've followed. They're not really guys that I find overly entertaining to watch. And I must admit as well that I've done a bit of research, but I haven't had the time that I'd like to do research on either of their opponents. Terry Flanagan is obviously fighting Diego Magdaleno. It's a name that I've heard of, Magdaleno. Let me tell you what I found out about him from my research. He's a smaller guy than Terry Flanagan. Terry Flanagan's about 5'9½". I think that's what he's listed out on BoxRec. Whereas Diego Magdaleno is 5'6". Magdaleno's a southpaw. He has stepped up relatively recently from the super featherweight division. So that ties in obviously with the lack of height. He's probably not the biggest guy at the weight, if you like. He also doesn't appear to be the biggest puncher in the world, which is something to note obviously with him moving up in weight and moving up in class. Since he's made the transition to fighting in the lightweight division, he has had 4 fights, if I recall correctly. 3 of them were against less noticeable opposition. Last time out, he fought a guy with a good record. The fight ended in bizarre circumstances after some sort of low blow. Either way, Magdaleno comes to fight. I don't know too much about him stylistically. Terry Flanagan, I kind of view Terry Flanagan as a light punching technician. I'm not completely sold on him. I thought his last fight ended in very fortunate circumstances for him. And I still think it was amazing that he got the world title shot in the first place, although his promoter, Frank Warren, should very much be applauded for that. I thought Terry Flanagan was boxing okay until, I know his last fight ended in a round or 2, but I thought the other guy was possibly getting the better of the early action. So I'm not sold on Terry Flanagan, and I think this fight has the potential to be a bit of a fight for the purists, because we've got 2 guys here, neither of whom are the biggest knockout punchers. You've got Terry Flanagan, the tall, rangy guy, who's more sort of defensive, chess player style. And the 5'6" guy, Magdaleno, who's moving up in weight, is a sort of southpaw, without a huge knockout percentage on his record either. So I think either way, it's possibly going to be one for the purists here, and we'll wait and see. As for an official prediction, it's not something that you should take your life savings to the bookies with, because it's not something that I've researched to the level that I'd like. But I'd probably be with Terry Flanagan, just on the basis that, you know, he's got the home advantage, he's got the momentum, and I think even though both guys are unproven, Terry Flanagan may be the more natural lightweight, and certainly the bigger guy on the night, which I think could be relevant. Liam Smith versus John Thompson is perhaps a more interesting fight. John Thompson is a guy I'm vaguely aware of. He won the Boxino tournament. He's very big, very rangy at the weight. I think John Thompson is well in excess of 6 foot tall. So he's going to be that kind of lanky, I don't know if you'd say Thomas Hearns build, but that kind of tall, rangy boxer. As you kind of expect for a light middleweight of that height, he's not the biggest knockout puncher. I view him more as a sort of long-range stylist. Again, this is without having seen his entire back catalogue and having only seen bits and bobs of him. I do know that John Thompson has been stopped earlier on in his career, actually. I think he got knocked out in the 2nd round of a fight. I'm just looking it up on BoxRec as I'm talking. Yeah, he got knocked out by a guy called Frank Galazza in the 2nd round back in 2014. So, you know, potentially that's something for Liam Smith to boost his confidence going into the fight. Liam Smith is a guy who I've watched a bit more closely than the other fighters involved. He's got a higher knockout ratio than John Thompson, but he's still not a mega knockout artist himself. I think he's got 10 knockouts and 20 wins. Dropped a draw earlier on his career in a 4-rounder, if I remember correctly. Liam Smith's the kind of guy, like a lot of guys who are hardcore boxing fans rave about Liam Smith. And I think the reason people like him is there's very little he does badly, and he's really solid across the board. perhaps a reason why I struggle to get excited about him is whilst he's very solid and he does everything adequately, I don't see anything in Liam Smith that's truly exceptional. And from what I've seen in John Thompson, other than Thompson just being a very, very big guy for the weight, I don't see anything he does that's overly exceptional. You know, I've seen John Thompson in matches where he has struggled to outpoint opponents, and it's been a tighter fight than anticipated. And in a way, again, credit needs to go to Frank Warren for getting this as a world title fight. You know, neither of these two guys would be in my top 10 at light middleweight. It's questionable whether either of them deserve to be in the top 20. Because let's face it, neither of these guys come to the ring having beaten a really, really notable fighter at 154 pounds. So credit to Frank Warren. Not only has he got Liam Smith a world title, but also he's got it against a man that Liam Smith's got a decent chance of beating. You know, I think John Thompson can be outpointed, and I think he can be stopped as well. So I think Liam Smith is live in both senses in this fight. It's certainly a step up for Liam Smith. He's a guy who's been campaigning at sort of British level for a relatively long period of time now, fighting you know, the Jason Wellborns of this world, so we say. I know he stepped up a bit recently, and his more recent fights have been relatively impressive. This is a big step up, but it's a big step up from both men. I wonder if John Thompson has got some good experience in that Boxino tournament. I know that was big news in America, so potential. I think one thing that's relevant in this fight is Liam Smith has gone to 12 rounds. He went 12 rounds with Eric Ochieng when Eric Ochieng was more of a name than he is now. John Thompson, I don't believe, has gone beyond 8 rounds, which could be relevant, especially if you consider that John Thompson is very big at the weight, and especially if you consider the fact that John Thompson doesn't seem to carry much power. Because if John Thompson doesn't knock Liam Smith out, and I presume he won't, and if John Thompson has to go into rounds 9, 10, 11 and 12, potentially cutting a lot of weight to come into the fight, could that affect his performance? It's at least a possibility we can consider. And I think this is Liam Smith's best chance of all to get his hands on a world title belt. And that would be my prediction, actually. John Thompson, I haven't seen his full back catalogue, but from what I've seen on him, he's beatable. And Liam Beefy Smith, while I'm yet to be convinced that he's exceptional in any area, he is a solid operator across the board. One thing I would say is credit to Liam Smith and credit again to Frank Warren. I think that's the 3rd time I've credited Frank Warren in this video. But you look at the Smith brothers, you look at, I don't know, Stephen Smith. He's been talking about world title fights with Lee Hearn for 18 months, 24 months now. You look at Paul Smith, the big name of the family, fought for the world title twice, fought Andre Ward pound for pound king, fought in the Contender, yeah, been on the scene for years. You look at Callum Smith, who's known as one of the hottest prospects out there, one of the biggest punchers out there. Fair play to Liam Smith, fair play to Frank Warren. If Liam Beefy Smith is the first of the Smith Brigade to lift up a world title, and he seems like a nice guy, I hope he is. I'm going for the 2 home fighters to win. I'm not convinced on either of them, and terribly, due to the level of opposition, even if they win these fights and become world champions, I still won't be thinking of them as the very top of their divisions. But that is boxing how it is today. Fair play to both lads, good luck to them, and hopefully we can have some new British world champions after the weekend. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on these 2 fights. How do you see them going?